The harsh glow of my laptop cast shadows across my cramped dining table as I squinted at another spreadsheet. 14 hours at the office wasn't enough to finish the Henderson portfolio. So here I was, midnight approaching, still working while the rest of Boston slept. I massaged my temples, trying to focus on the numbers that had begun to blur together. My apartment was quiet except for the occasional hum of the old refrigerator, a modstone bedroom set I could have afforded to have. Aging appliances when I could manage newer ones, but these sacrifices had a purpose. Family came first, always had. My phone vibrated against the table. Madison's name lit up the screen. Despite the exhaustion weighing on my shoulders, a smile tugged at my lips. My little sister probably calling about weekend plans or needing advice on her graduate school project. Hello, I answered, my voice warm despite my fatigue. Instead of Madison's voice, I heard the unmistakable sound of glasses clinking, laughter bubbling, music playing in the background. A party, my grip on the phone tightened. Hello, Madison. I tried again, louder this time. The noise continued. No response. Must be a pocket dial. I was about to hang up when I heard my name cut through the background chatter. Can you believe Catherine still thinks she's helping us? Madison's voice, clear and cutting. I froze, the words hanging in the air between us. Though she didn't know I was listening. She's basically an ATM with a pulse. My mother's laughter followed, unmistakable and cruel. The sound pierced me like a physical blow, stealing my breath. She owes us for not having kids or a husband. Caleb's voice joined in, slurring slightly. What else is she going to spend money on? I sank into my chair, unable to move, unable to end the call. The calculator app on my screen blurred as tears threatened. Let's tell her rent went up by $250, Madison again, her tone calculating. Nothing like the grateful sister who hugged me last week when I covered her textbook costs. Get her to cover utilities and my spa days too, Mom's voice now greedy and confident. Mom, who I'd been paying $1,450 in rent for every month, who told me last week about her medical expenses that I covered without question. The worst part came last. Spoken by Madison with such casual cruelty it made my stomach turn. It's so easy to guilt her. She always folds. My hand trembled as I gripped the phone. I couldn't seem to hang up. Couldn't stop listening to this nightmare unfolding in real time. Tears slid silently down my cheeks, landing on the spreadsheet where I'd been calculating how many more months until I could finally start my emergency fund again. The memories flooded in unbidden. The vacation to Maine I canceled 3 years ago when Caleb had his emergency tuition shortfall. The dental work I postponed twice when Madison's car needed repairs that somehow cost exactly what I'd saved for my root canal. The second job I took last year, bartending weekends when Mom claimed she needed help with medical bills I never saw documentation for but trusted were real. Because she's my mother. 5 years of sacrifices paraded through my mind in merciless detail. 5 years of family emergencies that somehow aligned perfectly with my bonus schedule. 5 years of their grateful faces now revealed as masks hiding contempt. I finally pressed the end call button, setting the phone down with unnatural care, as if it might shatter like my trust just did. The apartment felt colder suddenly, the silence heavier. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my hand. My posture straightened almost of its own accord. Something shifted inside me past the hurt, past the betrayal. A calm clarity emerged. I'd spent years analyzing financial data, finding patterns others missed. How did I miss this? I picked up my phone again, my fingers steady now as I typed. Hey, I think my phone glitched weird signal just now. Everything okay? The response came quickly. All good. Just having dinner with Mom and Caleb, talk tomorrow? No mention of a party. Another lie. So effortless it was chilling. I closed my laptop, pushing aside the Henderson portfolio. It could wait until morning. Instead, I opened a new spreadsheet, naming it something I should have created years ago. Exit strategy. The title stared back at me, both terrifying and liberating. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't thinking about how to help my family. I was thinking about how to help myself. And they'd never see it coming. Bank statements covered my dining table like fallen leaves, each one a record of my generosity or my gullibility. I'd spent the past 3 hours meticulously cataloging every transaction, every dollar siphoned from my accounts over 5 years. The numbers stared back at me, cold and damning. $87,000, just in rent payments. My stomach twisted as I traced a finger over the highlighted figures. That wasn't counting emergencies, the temporary loans, the birthday gifts, and holiday presents. The money I could have used for a down payment on my own home, a retirement fund, the dental work I kept postponing. How did I miss this? I whispered to my empty apartment. The radiator hissed in response, the only sound besides my ragged breathing. My laptop glowed in the dim light as I typed Madison's name into Facebook's search bar. I hadn't checked her social media in months, too busy working, too busy supporting them. 3 scrolls down and my breath caught. There she was, cocktail in hand, lounging by a resort pool I'd never seen. "We can get away, blessed." The caption read, dated 2 weeks after she called in tears about her impossible utility bill that I immediately paid. I clicked through to Mom's profile next. Linda Morgan, whose medical appointments had drained my emergency fund twice this year. Linda Morgan, who now smiled back at me from the chair of an upscale salon, her fresh highlights costing more than I spent on haircuts in a year. Had to treat myself, new look, new chapter. The post was dated 3 days after I transferred $600 for what she called critical medical tests. My hands shook as I searched for Caleb, my little brother, supposedly buried in textbooks and struggling to make tuition payments. The evidence hit like a physical blow. Caleb in Las Vegas, arm around a girl I'd never seen. Caption study break. During the weekend he told me he couldn't call because he was locked in the library, cramming for finals. I closed my laptop, unable to look anymore. The betrayal was too raw to complete. Memory after memory resurfaced, now cast in the harsh light of truth. Last Christmas, dropping off carefully selected gifts at their door, Mom claiming she was too tired for me to come inside. The birthday dinner I arranged for Linda at her favorite restaurant, where they left an hour early for a headache that didn't stop them from posting bar photos later that night. The promotion celebration no one attended because of car trouble. The pattern was so clear now, texts appearing only when bills were due, calls that never asked how I was doing. Only what I could give. My phone buzzed on the table. Mom's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time, I felt nothing but a cold clarity. "Catherine, honey, it's been ages. We're having a little family dinner on Sunday. Can you make it?" My voice didn't betray me as I accepted the invitation, already calculating my next move. "I'd love to. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," she said warmly, the same warmth I once mistook for love instead of opportunity. After ending the call, I stood before my bathroom mirror, practicing normal smiles, rehearsing casual responses. "Oh, rent went up again. That's terrible." Smile, sympathetic nod. "Another unexpected bill. That must be so stressful." Concerned frown, but not too deep. I opened my closet, pushing past the few nice pieces I'd allowed myself. No, those wouldn't do. I selected faded jeans, a sweater with worn elbows. The illusion of struggle must be maintained a little longer. For dessert, I'd bring my chocolate cake, the one they always praised but never quite appreciated. I baked from scratch to save money. The irony didn't escape me as I wrote down ingredients I'd need. "You've been supporting them for years?" Eleanor's fork froze halfway to her mouth, her salad momentarily forgotten as we sat in the corner booth of the cafe across from my office. "I've paid their rent since Mom claimed she couldn't work full-time after her back injury." The air quotes I made felt bitter, childish, but necessary. "I've been living in that 1-bedroom apartment, so they could have their 3-bedroom house." Eleanor's face shifted from shock to anger on my behalf. "Catherine, that's exploitation." The word landed heavily between us. I'd avoided naming it until now. "My guest room is yours if you need space when this all comes out," she offered, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "Whatever you decide to do." I thanked her, throat tight with unexpected emotion. Having someone firmly in my corner felt foreign, precious. Later that afternoon, Michael from accounting stopped by my desk. He survived his own family betrayal 3 years ago, parents who remortgaged their house in his name. He recognized the signs in me. "Remember, setting boundaries isn't cruel. he said quietly. It's the most honest thing you can do for everyone involved. That night, I found myself staring at old family photos. Dad with his arm around me at my high school graduation, his proud smile. Madison as a toothless 7-year-old, clutching my hand on her first day of school. Caleb learning to ride a bike, my hand steadying him from behind. Were those moments real, or was I always just a resource to them even then? My phone rang. Mom again. You're bringing that chocolate cake everyone loves, right? Her voice was honey sweet, familiar in its manipulation. Of course, I said, feeling the old guilt rising, threatening to break my resolve. Family was family after all. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe. I hung up and played the recorded call again, their cruel laughter filling my quiet apartment. She's basically an ATM with a pulse. It's so easy to guilt her. She always folds. I closed the photo album and straightened my shoulders. The doubt receded, replaced by something cooler, more determined. Sunday dinner was 2 days away. It was time they learned that ATMs could be permanently out of service. The familiar brick colonial loomed before me, its windows glowing amber against the twilight sky. I pulled my sensible sedan to the curb, cut the engine, and sat motionless. This house 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, with the wraparound porch Dad always wanted wasn't mine, though my name appeared on every mortgage payment for the past 5 years. Just breathe, I whispered, gripping the steering wheel. My rehearsed smile felt like a mask already, tight and unnatural. The front door swung open before I reached the porch steps. Madison bounced out, all honey blonde hair and practiced enthusiasm. Kath, you made it. Her arms encircled me, squeezed firmly enough to convince. I cataloged the details I once missed. The fresh manicure with intricate designs that couldn't have cost less than $80. The subtle scent of a perfume I recognized from the Nordstrom beauty counter. Wouldn't miss it, my voice emerged steady, betraying none of the tremors I felt inside. Mom appeared in the doorway, arms outstretched, her smile wide but eyes calculating. There's my responsible girl. The word landed like a slap now. Responsible, code for useful. Hi, Mom. I allowed myself to be folded into her embrace, noting the cashmere softness of her sweater against my cheek. Medical bills didn't typically come with designer labels. Caleb appeared last, offering a half-hearted side hug that lasted precisely 2 seconds. Hey, sis, I followed them into the living room I rarely visited despite funding. The walls were decorated with family photos, Madison's graduation, Caleb's high school football days, Mom's 60th birthday cruise. I scanned for evidence of my existence but found nothing more recent than my college graduation. 10 years erased, except for my financial contributions. Is that a new television? I asked, gesturing toward the sleek 65-inch screen dominating the wall. Last month, Caleb had texted about being unable to afford his textbooks. Oh, that old thing. Mom waved dismissively. Black Friday deal. Practically gave it away. Black Friday was for months ago. The model came out 6 weeks ago. Madison sat beside me, her freshly manicured hands fidgeting in her lap, French tips with tiny crystals catching the light. The same hands that typed, barely making ends meet in last week's text message. How's work? She asked, not waiting for my response before continuing. I've been absolutely drowning in my thesis research. Professor Saunders is being completely unreasonable about deadlines. The same Professor Saunders she tagged in Instagram photos from a weekend music festival 2 weeks ago. Best professor ever? Works fine, I answered simply. Busy season. Mom brought in a tray of coffee and her famous lemon squares, the ones she knew I loved. The sugar-dusted treats were carefully arranged, a sweetener for what was coming. They always fed me before asking for money. So Mom began after precisely 2 sips of coffee, right on cue. Her voice dropped to that familiar, urgent tone. We've had some unexpected news. I took a bite of lemon square, buying time. 5 years of these performances and I'd never recognized the pattern. The dramatic pause, the concerned glances between them, the inevitable crisis that only my checkbook could solve. The landlord called yesterday. She shook her head, eyes downcast. He's raising the rent again to $150 more starting next month. Madison's eyes widened on cue. We're already stretched so thin, Kath, I've picked up extra research assistant hours, but it's barely making a dent. Research assistant hours that hadn't prevented her from posting poolside margarita photos every Thursday afternoon for the past month. I'm worried about falling behind in school, Caleb added right on cue. If I have to pick up more delivery shifts, my GPA will tank, his recent Vegas poker tournament winnings apparently insufficient for rent, though adequate for the designer sneakers he was currently wearing. Their glances telegraphed between them Mom's slight nod to Madison, Madison's eye flicked to Caleb, the synchronized dance of manipulation I now saw with painful clarity. That's terrible, I said, my tone appropriately sympathetic. Didn't you just go to that spa resort last month, Mom? The one in the Berkshires. A moment of panic flashed across her face before she recovered. Oh, that was a special deal through my church group. Practically free. The $1,379 per night tea resort her friend accidentally tagged her at. The $120 hot stone massage she reviewed online. I turned to Madison. That's a beautiful purse. Nordstrom. Her fingers instinctively touched the buttery leather bag beside her. This? No. It's just a really good knockoff from that market downtown. The same bag I priced last week while researching her spending. For $150, genuine leather. To one end Vegas looked fun, Caleb. Your Instagram had some great shots of the Bellagio. He shifted uncomfortably. Just crashed on a buddy's hotel room floor. Barely spent anything. Except the $800 his poker tournament entry cost, prominently displayed in his victory photo. Their momentary panic dissipated quickly, replaced by practiced excuses. The choreography was flawless. They'd been performing this play for years. Mom cleared her throat, steering the conversation back to the script. About the rent increase. She hesitated, the practiced pause designed to build tension. We were wondering if you might be able to help with the extra $250. Just until things stabilize. Three faces turned to me, expectant. A pointed silence stretched between us. I let it linger longer than usual, watching doubt flicker across Mom's face. Of course I'll help. The words came out exactly as rehearsed. Family comes first, right? Their collective exhale was audible. Shoulders relaxed. Smiles returned. Mom reached over to squeeze my hand, her grip firm with victory. You're an angel, Catherine. I don't know what we'd do without you. When they disappeared into the kitchen to prepare dinner, I casually walked to the mail pile on the entryway table. The landlord's official notice sat in plain view. Rent increase of $50, not $250. I snapped a quick photo with my phone. Bathroom, I called out, though I knew exactly where it was. Down the hall, honey, Mom answered from the kitchen. Instead, I slipped into her bedroom, quickly photographing the bank statement carelessly left on her nightstand. The spa charges were highlighted in yellow. Mom's way of tracking business expenses for tax write-offs she didn't qualify for. Back in the dining room, I positioned my phone casually on the table. Voice memo recording as Mom returned with a roast that cost more than the groceries in my refrigerator. To family, Mom said, raising her glass. To family, we echoed, and I smiled, knowing this performance was almost over. Sometimes revenge didn't require confrontation. Sometimes it was simply about gathering evidence, until the truth became undeniable to yourself. The clock on my laptop read 11:59 p.m. Rent was due at midnight. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The payment form filled out to the last digit, $1,450 that would drain my account yet again. The cursor blinked over the submit payment button, waiting for the click that had come automatically for 5 years. But tonight, something had changed. I thought of the recording saved on my phone, ATM with a pulse, and closed the laptop with a soft click that sounded like freedom. I powered off my phone completely and placed it in my nightstand drawer, burying it beneath a novel I hadn't had time to read. The silence in my apartment felt strange, almost uncomfortable. For the first time in years, I was unreachable to them. Madison's first text arrived at 6:22 a.m. Hey, rent's due today. By noon, Mother's message appeared. Landlord called about the payment. Everything okay? By 3 o'clock, Caleb joined the chorus. Mom's really stressed about the rent. Call her as soon as possible. The evening brought escalation. Where's the money, Catherine? We're counting on you. And finally, as midnight approached again, if you don't pay, we'll be evicted. How could you do this to us? I watched the messages accumulate on my reactivated phone, each one stripping away another layer of their performance, the pretense of care dropping away with each passing hour, revealing the naked desperation beneath. I'd like to change all my account passwords and set up additional security measures, I told the bank representative. Her name tag read Janice, and her eyes widened slightly at my comprehensive list of requests. 2 hours later, I walked out with new cards, new PINs, new online credentials, and the unsettling knowledge that Madison had attempted to access my savings account last Christmas, something the bank had flagged but never reported to me. That afternoon, I methodically worked through my list. I removed my credit card from our shared Netflix and Hulu accounts. I called the electric company to confirm I wasn't listed on my mother's utilities, despite having paid them for years. I deleted payment methods from Amazon and changed the password. By evening, I'd created a new email address and ordered a new phone number, a clean slate. Each step felt like dismantling a piece of the cage I'd lived in. Is this really necessary? Eleanor asked when I explained my actions over coffee. I showed her the spreadsheet of emergencies that aligned perfectly with my bonuses. They've taken almost $90,000 from me. I said, the number still shocking even to me. What happens when they realize? She asked. They already have, I said, showing her my phone screen with 37 missed calls. On the third day, I answered Madison's call. Where have you been? Her voice exploded through the speaker, raw panic stripping away her usual calculated sweetness. We need the money now. I sat at my small dining table. Spreadsheets of their financial lies spread before me like a roadmap of exploitation. I've been thinking a lot about our family dynamic, I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. We don't have time for this. Madison's voice rose, edging toward hysteria. The landlord is threatening eviction. I'm making some changes in how I support the family. The words came out firm, a boundary made of sound. There was shuffling, and then my mother's voice cut in, sharp as a blade. Catherine, what's the meaning of this? I recognized the tone, the one that made me fold countless times, the voice of authority that now sounded hollow. In the background, Caleb pleaded, then cursed. I know the rent is actually $1,200, not $1,450. Silence, complete and revealing. I don't understand what you're talking about, my mother finally said, but her voice had lost its edge. I think you do. I traced the number on my spreadsheet, $250 extra each month for 3 years, $9,000 in fabricated rent. I've been looking into a lot of things lately. You're confused, she attempted, but uncertainty made her voice waver. No, Mom, for the first time in years, I see everything very clearly. Listen to me, young lady, she began, but the authority in her voice rang false now. I'll be over tomorrow at 6, I interrupted. We can discuss new arrangements then. You can't just, Madison tried to cut in. I can, and I am. I hung up before they could respond. I sat with this strange, bittersweet feeling of having done something both terrible and necessary. The weight on my shoulders hadn't disappeared. It had transformed into something I could finally carry without breaking. My phone lit up again immediately. I silenced it and looked at the framed photo of my father on my desk. I'm still taking care of the family, Dad, I whispered, just not the way they wanted me to. For the first time in years, I thought he might actually be proud. I parked my car a block away from the house, my house, technically, or at least the one I'd been paying for. My reflection in the rearview mirror showed someone I barely recognized. Back straight, chin up, eyes clear. No hint of the woman who spent years hunched over spreadsheets, calculating how to help a family that saw me as nothing more than an ATM with a pulse. The manila folder on the passenger seat contained every piece of evidence I'd collected. Bank statements, social media screenshots, text messages they never thought I'd see, a calculator showing the grand total, $87,452, my life reduced to a number they took for granted. You've got this, I whispered to myself, the words hanging in the still air of my car. The walk to their front door felt like crossing a threshold between my old life and whatever came next. Through the window I could see them pacing, Linda's hair was uncombed, Madison's mascara smudged, and Caleb's expression hovered somewhere between fury and fear. I didn't knock. My key still worked, though after today I wouldn't need it anymore. Their heads snapped toward me when I entered. The eviction notice sat prominently on the coffee table, the bold red lettering visible from where I stood. The house smelled of desperation and burnt coffee. How could you do this to your own mother? Linda launched immediately, her voice cracking with practiced vulnerability. She was wearing the cashmere sweater I bought her last Christmas, while she claimed to need money for winter utilities. Madison's eyes welled with tears on cue. Catherine, please, we'll be homeless. Caleb stood against the wall, arms crossed, hostile. Real nice, sis. Real family-oriented of you. I placed my purse carefully on the entryway table and stepped into the living room. My footsteps sounded different somehow. Deliberate. The sound of someone who knew exactly where they were going. I'd like to play something for you, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in 5 years. Before they could protest, I placed my phone on the coffee table and pressed play. The sound of clinking glasses and laughter filled the room. Then Madison's voice, clear as a bell. Can you believe Catherine still thinks she's helping us? The blood drained from their faces as they heard their own words. Linda's laugh, brittle and cruel. She's basically an ATM with a pulse. Caleb slurred mockery. She owes us for not having kids or a husband. Madison again. Calculating. Let's tell her rent went up by $250. Linda's greedy addition. Get her to cover utilities and my spa days too. The final knife twist Madison's casual cruelty. It's so easy to guilt her. She always folds. Linda lurched forward. Turn that off. I raised my hand and she froze. It was the first time in my adult life I'd silenced her with a gesture. No, I said simply. You're going to listen. All of you. I pulled out the bank statements next, laying them methodically on the table. The rent on this house is $1,200 per month. For 5 years, I've been paying you $1,450, believing I was helping with utilities. I tapped the paper. Where did that extra $12,000 go, Mom? Linda's mouth opened and closed. And these, I continued, spreading out social media screenshots. Madison's Cabo trip during her financial emergency last spring. Caleb's new gaming system when he was struggling with textbook costs. Mom's spa weekend when she had medical bills. You were spying on us? Caleb sputtered. No, I was finally paying attention. I pulled out my calculator next, displaying the total. Their eyes widened as they saw the number. $87,452. That's what I've given you over 5 years, not loans, gifts. Well, I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with aging appliances and postponed dental work. While I took a second job bartending weekends, Madison tried to interrupt, but I continued, my voice gaining strength. I'm done being your ATM. As of today, there will be no more financial support of any kind. The panic in their eyes was immediate and visceral. You can't do this, Linda said, her tone shifting from accusation to bargaining. We're family. The eviction notice gives you 2 weeks, I said, unmoved. I suggest you start packing. We'll pay you back. Madison offered desperately. We just need a little more time. This isn't about the money, I said. It's about the lies, the manipulation, the mockery. Caleb stepped forward, his stance threatening. So that's it. You're just cutting us off. Yes, I replied. The simplicity of the word almost beautiful. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my house key, placing it on the table with a soft click. Family isn't measured by what you can take, I said, looking at each of them in turn, but by what you freely give. Linda scoffed, but there was fear behind her eyes. You'll regret this, Catherine. You'll be all alone. For the first time in 5 years, I smiled with genuine relief. I already was. I turned and walked toward the door, my steps lighter with each foot forward. Behind me, their voices rose in protest, bargaining, threats. I took out my phone and, with 3 quick taps, deleted their contact information as I crossed the threshold. The spring sunlight hit my face as I closed the door on that chapter of my life. The weight I'd carried for years lifted from my shoulders, and I took my first deep breath as someone knew someone who finally understood that saying no could be the most powerful form of self-respect. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. casting golden patterns across my hardwood floors. I traced my fingers along the rim of a delicate porcelain teacup, part of the set Grandma left me that spent years carefully wrapped in storage. Too precious to use, I told myself. But today, like every day this past year, I chose differently. Are you sure I can't help with anything? Eleanor called from the living room, where she was arranging a bouquet of fresh tulips, bright yellow, like the throw pillows I splurged on last month. Just relax, I answered, sliding a tray of appetizers from the oven. You've done enough. My apartment echoed with laughter as Michael arrived, wine bottle in hand, regaling everyone with his latest courtroom victory. His baritone filled spaces that once held only silence and spreadsheets. A year ago, my dining table groaned under the weight of financial calculations and family obligations. Now it boasted a spread for friends who expected nothing beyond my company. When the doorbell chimed, I welcomed Lydia, my mentor from Eastern Investment Partners, who saw potential in me once I had space to grow. After her came Marcus from the community center, where I volunteered to stay evenings, my helping nature channeled productively, not parasitically. To Catherine, Eleanor raised her glass, eyes crinkling with genuine pride. 1 year of freedom. On my refrigerator, beneath travel magnets from Tuscany and the Maine coast trips no longer perpetually postponed, sat a sealed envelope. Linda's handwriting, unmistakable after all these years. It arrived 3 weeks ago, still unopened. The anxiety it once would have triggered had mellowed to mild curiosity. My phone occasionally displayed Madison's blocked email subject lines, promising accountability, but body text undoubtedly lacking it. Last week, Caleb sent a message through a mutual friend about missing his sister. These attempts slid off me like rain on a newly sealed roof. You'll know when you're ready, my therapist said during yesterday's session. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. You get to decide what passes through and when. After dinner, as conversations broke into smaller groups, Samantha, a junior analyst, pulled me aside. I started that spreadsheet you suggested, she whispered, a familiar weariness in her voice. I'm supporting my brother through his third career change while paying Mom's credit card bills. I recognized the shadows under her eyes, the same ones that haunted my mirror for 5 years. Your spreadsheet has 2 columns. I told her, not as a broken woman bitter at the world, but as someone who'd climbed the mountain and could guide others. What you give and what it costs you. But there should be a 3rd column, what you save for yourself. Her eyes widened, as if I'd suggested something revolutionary. Later, as my guests gathered their coats, my phone lit up with notification of the promotion I'd been working toward, Senior Vice President of Portfolio Management. The celebration erupted immediately, genuine joy unmixed with calculation or envy. These people wanted nothing from me but happiness. On my balcony after everyone left, I watched the sunset paint the Boston skyline in amber and purple. My emergency fund was robust, retirement accounts recovering, and next month I'd make my first contribution to a scholarship for students who lost parents young. I opened my journal, fingers tracing the leather cover worn smooth by nightly reflections. Today marks 1 year of freedom. I choose to help, not to be used. The horizon spread before me like an unwritten story. Somewhere across the city, my blood relatives continued without my subsidies. But here, in this space I'd reclaimed, I'd learned a powerful truth. Sometimes the family you need isn't the family you were born into.